My traumatized babies and mentally ill Barbies, I am not doing the intro and outro for this video because this is just a PSA. I had just filmed something very, very long that I had to completely scrap for very good reason. And I wanted to talk in general about why I scrapped it and why, like, I get super cautious doing any sort of being related stuff because of this reason, because of this issue. So the message that I just scrapped had to do with prophecy. And I had run into a specific being before who I don't believe is an actual being. I believe that it is a very, very good construction from some sort of group of magicians. And if that is true, these would be magicians that would be somewhere in New York, like the Manhattan area. And what these magicians are trying to do is influence world events in a significant way. I don't know that these are like super head honcho magicians, but they have like the thought form that they created is very powerful and very realistic. But I think this is an experiment, and it's a dangerous one. So I wanted to talk about the dangers of giving messages from beings and why I always say, like, exercise caution with any being messages, beware the spiral, and also very much beware prophecy. Now, prophecy is going to go something like, these specific events are going to happen within this time frame, and it's going to be like a list of events that the being will tell you, and they will typically be bad events. They will be disasters. Always beware of that. Beware of that when you get disaster messages from beings. If it is an actual being, usually that prophecy, because you'll notice that, like, a lot of people get prophetic messages and they freak out about them and they start saying, oh, you know, the prophecy. And then the prophecy never comes true. There are tons of like occasions when people have been screaming their head off about something and then it's never ever happened, ever. And the thing is, that prophecy was never meant to happen. The only thing the prophecy is meant to do is energy harvest. And that's why, especially when it's a disaster-related message, if it's a fear-based thing, you typically don't want to give the message because the fear is designed to lock into people and like whip up the energy as quickly as possible and make it very, very intense. So they want to take action right away. The thing itself will likely never happen. It is only to whip up the person's energy who is giving the message, so they also influence other people to whip their energy up, and then that energy is harvested. And if it's just a weirdo being doing that, that's just how that being feeds. A lot of beings feed off of the energy that is produced by prophecy. And then, in this case, you have, in my opinion, a group of magicians who have created a being either to harvest energy for themselves for some other particular purpose that might not have anything to do with the prophecy that they were talking about, or getting this being to talk about, or what they're attempting to do is to enact that prophecy as a magical experiment. But giving the explicit message about the prophecy is actually helping them to create the events. And I have, in the other being related messages that I've gotten, those have not been prophecy. The yellow messages are something about events that are just going to occur cyclically over and over again. That's not a prophecy. That's history repeating itself. That's like we're working something out energetically until we succeed. That's not prophecy. Because also, like, in the the yellow transmissions, it's sort of like if we fail, like, yeah, there's consequences for failure, and usually there is some sort of violent event that can happen, like with the failure of the 7 jump or whatever, but it's not like some sort of, like, the prophecy that I'm talking about is like, you're going to get very, very clear. Like if I was telling you this particular world event will happen if like we fail this thing, or if it like goes through or whatever. That's not what that is. And also the white transmissions, the stuff from the glowing whites, that's not prophecy either. Though you saw it in that read, if you watched it, that I was very like cautious and conscious about giving a being message like that would affect other people, where other people would be playing in, especially with like trauma related stuff. And I like even said, like, I didn't get a negative on recording that read or sending it out. And I still don't have any negativity on that. So I'm feeling good about like that, like they're saying it's fine. On the read that I just ditched, I started getting the thing about the magicians in the end when I was specifically exploring. I was trying to tap into the prophecy-giving being. And when I tapped into the prophecy-giving being, I didn't get information from a being, I got information about magicians. That means that being is a thought form, a tulpa, a servitor that has been created by someone else to serve a particular purpose. And when I was like, then I got like, oh, like, well, I don't want to feed into anything. And I got over and over and over again, like, don't release that message. Don't release it. Don't release it. And I've ditched it. And so I asked about talking and educating about prophecy and speaking about like the magicians and the being. That I got the okay on. This is okay to release because I'm warning you about it. Because a lot of people won't do the legwork. They won't exercise caution when getting being related messages. And this being that was the thought form was especially like nasty because it had very, very urgent energy attached to it. I had described it as like a brain eater. So it's just not, and I like when I put that out on TikTok, I did warn about that. I was just like, and I brought up that like this is potentially the work of magicians. And that listening to this could be like helping them with their operation, because I put like, and I told people like, don't watch it, like if that's the case, like if you can't sit there and just think, oh, that's interesting, like don't get whipped up by it, like don't get scared, because that's what they want. That's how they take the energy from you. So this is just a very brief little PSA that I'm putting together. I'm deleting that read. I know now, like, just to ignore whatever hits that I get from either of the creations or the beings or whatever that were giving the messages that they were giving. So that is a positive, and I will be creating some more general reads, but just straight up. This is why if you feel your authenticity like includes like trance channeling or anything like that, you need to have some sort of solid protective structure around you, because readers can be manipulated by magicians and other beings. So you, especially if you're not using a medium like cards to bring something through, because the cards are a barrier to the energy. That's also why I prefer using them. I do not like bringing things through my body at all, but I especially wouldn't do that unless I had a really freaking good idea of who that being was. And I've only ever successfully done that, like actually channeled a being in my life once, because even like the channel downloads that I'm telling you, that's not me bringing a being through my body. That's just psychic information that you are picking up on without using the cards. That's not channeling a being. The only being I ever channeled was like directly tied to me. It was like another version of myself. And that was a very pleasant and comforting experience. And also it wasn't supposed to be for anybody else. It was just supposed to be for me. So that is just the PSA, and I wanted to mention that it happened, and to seriously, if you are hearing any readers giving any sort of like messages about disastrous world events, I would very much encourage you not to pay attention to those reads. It's not that like we couldn't have disastrous world events. We absolutely could. I mean, that's fairly normal to have that. But the only thing that you do in that instance is what you normally do. Like where I live in the greater New Orleans area, we go through hurricane season every year. And the responsible people here make sure they have their candles, their electric, like their LED lamps, they have their radios, they have a stock of water, they have their canned goods, they have a whole bunch of hurricane stock already. They like, so it's essentially prepping, but it's not like paranoid, neurotic prepping for the end of the world. It's responsible prepping for disasters that we know tend to happen periodically. That's normal. That's not prophecy. We live in an area where hurricanes like hit fairly regularly. So that's not a prophetic warning. That's just what are the odds this year, right? So that's the only type of prep work that I would ever encourage somebody to do. The responsible prep work that you do anyway. Like be careful about like your investments and your money. Yes, you might want to have a certain amount of prep done, because like if we remember during the panini, right, there was like the run on toilet paper and like paper goods and things like that. So it's that sort of stuff. It's that sort of stuff. Make sure you're being responsible with your finances. Make sure you have maybe some reasonable amount of prep work done. You don't have to like live off the grid or anything unless it is your passion and authenticity to live that sort of lifestyle. Other than that, there is no major like work for anyone to do. So I just wanted to get it's not a warning, but it's just a PSA. It's a PSA, and anyone who is encouraging you to be afraid, anyone who is themselves afraid and is being taken by fear, especially when it's involving like being prophecy, and anyone else, like, because I mean that's just a regular like real world fugazi. That's how Alex Jones and Tim Pool and all of those sorts of people, even people in the regular like mainstream media, operate. The news is compelling to watch because it is tapping into your fear. And you know, some of the channels are reporting on like real events, because obviously there are wars going on right now. But to me, it's a very disgusting thing, because there's only so much information that you need to know about a war. Like if you are intending to protest, like yes, if you're intending to donate funds or go help people, yes, you need that information. But the constant reportage is typically not educational, it is entertainment. And that's what makes it very disgusting, because they are profiting off of your attention to other people's disaster is not the right word that I'm looking for. Like it's wartime profiteering, like just the consumption of that. So for me, my foot's being attacked. Well, now you're stuck. There you go. So for me, the only way that I consume news is I don't really watch anything. Like I tend to pay attention to like some of the headlines that pop up. And if anything seems relevant to me, I get comprehensive knowledge at the end of like the day or the end of the week. Like I get a recap of relevant events, typically in like a document format, like in an article, not something that's on a video, because that's like a suck it, like they want your attention, they want you to keep watching. And that like, you're not like, it's a good thing, like, to be knowledgeable about what's going on in the world, yes, to be informed about politics and everything else. We don't want to bury our heads in the sand, but no, we don't want to be compulsively viewing things that are actually profiteering off of other people's pain, not actually contributing anything to the situation, and allowing people who already have a phenomenal amount of money to continue making more money off of our attention. And I am including reaction channels in that make all of their reaction content based off of like news events, who they only ever react, and like it's essentially a drama channel disguised as a political analysis channel. And they never actually do anything either. They never actually organize any events or anything like that. They just sit there and they themselves profit off of this stuff. So that is my general little announcement, my opinions and things like that. Always be mindful of what you're consuming. And please, if you start feeling fear in any of the sort of messages that I am bringing about, just get out of the read, because that's not anything that we want to cultivate in anybody.